this is all basically book moves. Bishop e6, castles, a6, g4, which another topical move, rook c8, h4, which is an aggressive move. Try an attempt to mix this up. Knight b4, king b1, which computer doesn't like, but I really wanted to get my king off of this any potential pin, and frankly playing 8-3, 8-3, and then risking bishop b3, c3, and then basically this particular knight being pinned did not appeal to me. So I decided I'm gonna play king b1 and d5, which is the best move. It's basically another topical breakthrough, and here is one of the question marks of this match. In other words, what is white to do here? If you look closer, you will discover that computer doesn't like taking on d5. It prefers a pawn attacks, either a3 or g5, which are probably two of the best moves in this position. And g5 has a very interesting hey, Sarhana87, do I do Hugo Auckland on Chess.com? I'm not familiar with that Grandmaster Sarhana, but I would be more than happy to take a look, and thank you for the suggestion. In other words, the answer to your question, I do not. So this is actually a very wild line, which is take g5, takes rook h. Oh, sorry, no, not that. Then takes, and then instead of knight h7, black takes at h1, and then after gf6, it's rook f1, and then takes a rook f1 and here, and it was a very wide line that very frankly was even too much wild for my taste, and I didn't, but that's incidentally one of the possible topical lines in this position. Hello, Goran Zaric is thank you for joining us. It's very good. So, after thinking a little bit, I really didn't know what to do, so I decided that it's not gonna hurt me to take, which if you look closer is not the best move, but after taking on d5 and then Anna took on d5, which is the best move, I took on the d5 again, and here is one of what if moments in this match. Anna played rook c2. And rook c2 is actually a losing move in this position. And I'm going to first, let me say one thing. Grandmaster Anna Muzychuk is a very classy lady, and she is the strongest opponent I faced in these matches. She is two-time world blitz and one-time world rapid champion. She has an extremely accomplished career. She's one of the 4 ladies that had a rating of over 2600. In other words, she is 2600 plus grandmaster. That's the strongest player I faced by some margin, and the only person who is there is congratulations, Serhan. Winning against a grandmaster is always something to celebrate, even regardless of what the rating is. So congratulations on that. I'm very happy for you. I know how that feels. I had a few games that I won against grandmasters. And she has a reputation of being this solid. This is a position that I would, and I'm gonna get rid of the arrow, that I would love to have again. All right, I would love to have again because in this position white is winning. And white is winning by in multiple ways. White can decide to take the knight on b4, which is more difficult variation. Or white can, which is probably the easiest, is just follow and take on c2 and look. And after take on c2, the only move is to take on c2. And after taking on c2, knight f6 is a check. And after either gf6 or bf6, and we're going to use more human, bishop takes on f6, rook d8, and then bishop d8 and king c2. And in this position, white has an extra piece for the pawn, and this is almost +4 position, and I am I don't think I'm losing. So the question is this, and at this particular moment I actually have plenty of time. So I can cancel it. I could have sat down and calculated. And here is a first lesson for me in this match, which I think is very important, and I'm very glad I played this match against Anna, and I'm very grateful to Anna for it's important. Here is a thing. This is a puzzle rush position, basically, in which one needs a very concrete calculation. Yet, and it needs a very structured calculation. Yet, I basically played this position, and I'm still mad at myself for it, on feel. In other words, and this is the line that I ended up playing, and I'm going to show you this. The knight e7 missed win. All right, that's what computer says. Hey, Hardin 4101, thank you for the following. And I'm still salty for not taking on c2, although I considered it, but I needed to basically say, all right, Nicola, you're gonna do concrete calculation here for a minute, and I'm not going to say that I almost played like a bullet game, but I played this rather complex position on feel. Anyway, hey Tarek, it's very good to see you, and Hardin, hello, very good to see you. Jakurokawa, to answer you, at which point someone should quit chess not because they don't enjoy it, but because skill level is just too poor. It's a tough question to answer. I always felt that one of the beauties of chess is that people at any strength level, should be able to enjoy it. In other words, it's a very fulfilling game on multiple levels. Let me say this: I'm here playing an adoption match, and I'm losing 10. I'll end up losing 10-0. But I don't think, as you guys can tell, I'm not unhappy with the match. On the contrary, I'm very happy that I played it, and I will, if I had to play this match, I would play it again. But on the other hand, if one's skill level is such that you don't enjoy playing it, I think that's the good time to consider not abandoning, but maybe taking a break, or in other words, it's really a matter of personal preference, and I think I'd agree with Hardin 401. Chess is good for your brain regardless of particular skill level. So anyway, for what that's worth. So I made a blunder here that basically knight took on e7, and the reason, and that actually the best variation was played in the game. I assumed that after bishop c5 I'm gonna have a rook and two pieces for the queen. However, Anna obviously found the best resource, which is basically to sacrifice the queen for a rook and a piece, and what ended for two pieces. And what basically happened here was that I ended up with an endgame that is actually pretty hard to play, and very frankly, my endgame skills are very decent, but they're very decent for a 2000 level. They're not decent enough for me to be able to face a grandmaster at 2600 level. So objectively, this endgame is holdable because I have an exchange for 2 pawns. But as it transpires, it's enough for me to make a few errors. And for the record, Anna didn't play this perfectly herself. I needed to, here, for example, I needed to play rook c1. And after rook c1, this would have been something that's very close to a draw. And you can tell the evaluation here is veering towards zeros. But I didn't play this, and then I'm also here down to 2 seconds, and I should have taken on c6 because I was kind of hoping that that I would be able to convert this to rook versus knight endgame, and I managed to do that. But the strategy for white in this endgame is to create a passed pawn, and knight or preferably distant passed pawn. And you will see that after all these exchanges, and this is still within the realms of draw, although there are 3 pawns for the exchange. Oh, thank you, Tariq. Thank you for to gifting the sub. That's very greatly appreciated. Thank you for gifting a sub to Joe Luna. Anyway, so this is still within realms of playability. I needed to play b3 here, and this is still okay, but I was never able to grab a passed pawn. For example, if for any reason Anna actually allowed me to grab this pawn on b5, I would have been in good shape, but I wasn't. And then I made a small blunder after actually playing quite a lot of good moves. I needed to play rook g8, and here this is the biggest error of mine. This endgame, I needed to play rook h8 instead of rook g6, but at this point I only have 2 seconds, and and this is basically when this becomes a lost endgame. This is definitely a lost endgame. This is an endgame where there is still a possibility of saving the endgame. But anyway, to spare you the rest of the game, this 4 passed pawns versus rook and a knight versus, it's not savable, and that was the end of it. And I flagged in this position, and I think the result is obvious. So here is my, if you want, my lesson from this game, for lack of a better term. Oh, thank you, Handbrain. I really think, to the extent that anybody who, loses an adoption match can consider his or her play to be very good. Let me actually see if I can find this. Yeah, it's this. I would love to have this position again. And, I really need to force myself, even in these blitz games, to do a concrete calculation. In other words, I played this position on feel, and what I should have done is to do a very structured approach to this. Structured approach means, okay, what are my checks? What are my captures? What are my threats? And evaluate different options. I should have been able to find what was the easy win here, which is queen c2. I also had another possible win, which was, take on b4, and even another option, which was, bishop b5, which is also incidentally a blunder. But, you know, I should have done the whole due diligence in this position because this is a crucial position of the game. And I have basically overlooked the most, actually two possible very good continuations. And two continuations are basically, actually there are three according to the computer. I really wouldn't have played queen b4. But, you know, it was take on c2, take on b4, or, you know, basically knight f6 is this, if you look closer, it's the same line, just with a different move order. Yes, Goran Zaric, thank you, exactly, and, you know, but very frankly, I didn't, the reason, and this is going to come as a very interesting statement. The errors in my in this match were not so much chess games or chess based or chess strength based. They were, I would say, psychologically based or mental based. And you will see this when we get to game number 5, which I had completely won and then, you know, basically choked. So, but thank you, and you know, the lesson for me from this game is, you know, I should have played queen c2, but yeah, that's not the point. The point here is I should have stopped and looked and said, okay, this is a key position, let me do concrete calculations. You know, maybe me playing too many bullet games has something to do with it. So I kind of need to work on it, and that's as much a chess exercise as it is a psychological exercise. It's very funny, and you know, I obviously don't want to compare myself with Capablanca in any way. You know, Capablanca is one of the greatest chess players and probably one of the top 2 or 3 biggest natural challenges playing this. If you look, it's yeah, Tariq, I'll repeat this. So basically, queen c2. No, not that. Go away. So after queen c2, knight c2, knight f6, bishop takes c6, rook d8, bishop d8, queen c2. You know, white is a piece up for a pawn, and that's basically the winning continuation in this game. So here I am, you know, have a chance to, you know, defeat adoption in the very first game against somebody as strong as Anna Muzychuk, and, you know, I didn't do my due diligence. To go back the story about Capablanca, Kasparov has one very good observation about match between Capablanca and Alyekhin in 1927 that Capablanca lost. And that observation is that Capablanca, that Alyekhin continually complicated the position, and Capablanca, who was a very crystal clear player of a very crystal clear style, found it very difficult to calculate concrete position. In other words, and to directly quote Kasparov, work hard for the wins, because he was such a very strong player that all of a sudden, you know, dealing in intense complexities of Alyekhin's play was very hard for him to handle. He wasn't prepared to handle it. And, you know, I'm not going to say, obviously I'm comparing myself with Capablanca, I don't supposed to do it, but I shouldn't have played this position on field. I should have basically said, Nicola, you have 3 minutes, spend 2 minutes, or spend 1 minute or 45 seconds, do the concrete calculation in this position. If I have done it, I'm very confident that at least one of the two ways of winning this position, I would have found it. So that's my takeaway from this game. I am mad at myself for not doing this. Anyway, so that's my takeaway from this game. Then I'm gonna show you the game number. This was game number 4, and incidentally, starting in game number 4, I think that if you look closer, you know, miracles are miracles. My game accuracy in this game is actually higher than Anna's. And I want to give a huge shout out to both International Master Alexander Lopez and Grandmaster Daniel Naroditsky. This is basically, this was contested in a couple of games. This particular opening is, you can call it, it's basically Vienna. And I think that between Alex and Danya, I think I achieved, understood the zen of this position. And you will see this here. This is all basically book. Even Bishop d7 considered is best. And here is a great position to analyze if you guys ever faced this standard Vienna plan. And I also analyzed this with the one and only international master Anna Rudolph on stream. So I think I'm reasonably familiar with the zen of this position. And what is the zen of this position? Basically, what white wants to do here is to castle and then put the king on h2, which is actually in Vienna surprisingly robust configuration. It's very hard to break through. And then push f4. It basically press its advantages of the f file. And I contested this position with WGM Dina Belankaya last week. And, I was reasonably familiar first with that standard white's plan. And also, and I found a very effective way of preventing it. And to be honest with you, this is the game where I'm pretty proud of myself, because this was a game that was played positionally, and I think I achieved a very good understanding of the position from a positional standpoint. So what is the best move in this position for black to prevent that plan? It's a surprising move, and it's queen c8. Computer doesn't like it, and computer is welcome to doesn't like it. But here is the thing: this battery on c8 and d7 basically hits the pawn on h3, and white has a choice in this position. The choice is to either play h4. And then leaves this whole, light square complex undefended, or to, forego castling on the king side. And, Anna ended up playing, basically she never castled on the king side. In other words, I managed to avoid, to prevent white's plan. Now there is a price to pay for this, and that price to pay is the fact that this king is kind of preventing castling long, and this is a little bit of a clumsy battery, but it was a right strategic decision. I'm very proud of this game, and very frankly, I'm going to say this, and I think I learned this from WGM Dina Belankaya. She's Anna and Dina, not to a very significant extent, are positional players, and playing against any positional player, and especially somebody as strong as Anna Muzychuk, feels like wrestling with Anaconda. I said this on stream, and there is a running joke that her own chat calls her Anaconda with two N's, Anaconda, which is very cute. You feel that you are losing this, that you are not making any strategic blunders, yet imperceptibly you end up in a lost position slowly and slowly and slowly. My solution against the Dean in a similar situation was to play wild, but in game 3 that I'm not going to show you, in which I basically played Café de la Régence style, that didn't work. So I basically decided to contest this positional game and see how far I can go. And very frankly, I think it was the right strategic decision. Okay, so I gave you a large speech, so let me show you the rest of the game. So h6 is a topical move. h6 was probably the better move to prevent, g5, prevent bishop g5. But very frankly, I had in mind already this particular position, in which I want to redirect my knight, because f6 is actually not very well placed in this position. I wanted to redirect my knight to e7 as it is, and so bishop g5 is basically a shot into, it's a blank. It's basically gets the king to go where the get the knight to go where knight already wants to go. I'm actually very happy that computer likes this maneuver, and you will see that this knight actually went all over the place. Anyway, and I'm actually very happy with it. So f6, topical move, here, and this is, we're contesting the knight on d5, and the question here for black that kind of forced itself is, where are we castling? If we're gonna castle long, then we need to move this battery somewhere. And I decided even before playing knight g8 that I'm gonna maintain this battery and prevent the castle, king h2 and f4 plan. I don't want to say at any cost, but at any cost, because I really didn't like the position after that battery. Anyway, so after that, after this, exchanged, and now the other knight takes over for it, which is a pretty good move, d4. And here comes one misanalysis. Hey, Barnol, it's very good to see you. Thank you, my friend. Here comes the one of my, oh, thank you, Barnol. That's very good to hear. I feel I played quite well, and I think I was actually did better than I expected personally, to be very frank. I'm showing the game 4, which is a very positional game. And after d4, this now becomes a big question for black. At what point does black take on d4, if ever? And that's going to be a topical decision in this game, and I didn't find the right answer here. So anyway, so c3, which is a very safe move, castles, queen d2, and knight g6, and finally Anna decided to push f4 without actually. Oh, thank you, the Red Forest. Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. I'm actually very pleased with my play to the, and I'm not pleased with the result. Very honestly, my failures in that match, and I'm gonna discuss more of it when you look at the game 5. This is game 4. Are really not so much chess-based, but psychological-based. In game 1, I really should have did a concrete calculation, and I probably would have won or drawn that game. But anyway, this is game 4, and after bishop b5, I needed to play c5 at some point in this game. That was one of the missed opportunities. But this bishop here is very strong, because its opponent is tucked in on g2, and here Anna has all these weak light squares that this bishop is supposed to take advantage of. So I actually felt pretty good about this position and the whole thing. f5, which might be a little bit harsh, because again, the knight is going where knight is supposed to go, and the best place for the knight is f7, which is contesting this g4, g5 plan, and after g4, knight f7. And here is the reason I'm very proud of this game, although I lost it, is you see that evaluation is slowly turning in favor here, in favor of black. And this is one of those typical positions in which, you know, black is cramped, but black is cramped like, and you know, to keep using the snake metaphor, like a coiled snake. Coiled snake in a sense that, you know, black here can, you know, it's questionable how safe this king is. And if you look closer, the move that and the plan Anna chose is actually too aggressive, surprisingly, surprise or not. Hey, FN Lauren, thank you for the follow-up. So knight g3, and then after knight g3, queen d7, then castling, and very frankly, that is a very aggressive statement. In other words, white here commits to pushing h pawn and g pawn and basically attacking black. The computer evaluation in this position. Hey, FM Lauren, thank you for seeing. Thank you for the encouraging words. That means a lot. The thing here is that you know, although it doesn't appear so, black king is actually in a little bit of a trouble. And you know, my problem here is that I'm also conducting this attack with only 10 seconds, which is never my strong suit. But I'll take this position as black in this particular opening against Anna anytime, because I think I really played this quite well. You know, I had more than a few games in which, you know, one evaluation on game number 2 basically said one player took the advantage and never let go. And that's how basically this felt. Anyway, to cut a long story short, bishop a4, hitting the rook. And Anna here basically, I don't know, basically blundered the rook. But here is a question, and you know, the question here is, I venture to say, and I will admit I didn't see this. I didn't, because I kind of have a tunnel vision when it comes to position of this kind. If you look closely, you will discover that the computer considers the best move to take on d4 instead of taking the rook, because this bishop on a4 is arguably stronger than the white's rook on d1. And I think I'd agree with the computer. What I missed here was that I did, and this is my biggest, you know, disappointment in this game, is that I didn't play any of the active. You know, this was a moment when this king is here. It's on the open file. Sorry, that's not. You know, here, this is the open file. I have the connected rooks here. I needed here to start playing stronger. You know, d5 was an option. You know, taking on d4 was actually a very natural option. And on top of it, I could have taken the bloody rook on d1, but I didn't. I'm gonna fully admit I didn't see it. I had a tunnel vision. I was focused on my plan, and that's you know, that's a second don't in this match for me, which is don't miss opportunities like this. Take on d1, and you will solidify a very significant advantage. Anyway, so the game continued. I played queen b5, which is an attempt to play on light squares, which is a perfectly fine move. It's not the best. Yeah, take d5 and then push c5. Yeah, that would have been the best plan. Anyway, so Anna played rook dg1 and then queen b3, which is kind of pushing it. And this is another, if you want, a key key position of this match. Black is still better here, but black really needs to proceed actively. In other words, you know, it needs to take on d4 or it needs to push d5. Those are two active plans. The reason either of those two plans will be perfectly fine, because you know, activation of this bishop is very important, of this knight on f7 is very important, because if that knight gets to c4, it's a very good position for black. But anyway, that didn't happen, so I'm gonna continue here. I played bishop b5, kind of hoping to put the bishop on d4, and then after bishop f1, which is actually not the best move, I exchanged, and this was basically the last, this particular moment was the last moment to take on d4. But I didn't, and instead I exchanged the bishops, and only then I took on d4. You know, but good thing here is that this is still an equal position. Hey, Dr. Lono, I managed to, you know, I got adopted. I lost 10 games in a row against Grandmaster Anna Muzychuk, and I'm showing 4 games. Frankly, I had more chances. Yeah, thank you. That's very kind of you. But honestly, I don't mind. I played against the you know, outside of Man, this is by far the strongest opponent I had. I think I had plenty of chances. I think I actually played probably the best match I played. I acquired a couple of openings, and you know, the rest, and I learned something about my play, very frankly, that I think is going to prove invaluable for me in the future, and I'll talk about it very shortly. So take on d4, this is an equal position. c5, you see guys, here is the thing, I'm playing the pawn breakthroughs after attack has kind of ended. And that's just, you know, stupid. In my defense, I'm down to 5 seconds. You know, so, you know, as you guys know, I'm too old and too slow. But anyway, so take on d4, take on d4. Taking on d4 is actually a pretty big mistake. I needed to activate that knight. But anyway, I didn't see it, and then, you know, instead of playing queen c4, I should have played queen a4, because I gave Anna actually pretty significant tempo. And believe it or not, she actually allowed me to get back into the game by this queen d3 move, which basically proves that even Anna is human. And then after queen b3, queens were exchanged, and guess what? It's not immediately obvious, but black is better here. All I need to do is to exchange, and you know, exchange queens, or even take on g4, and I'm not worse here. But I kind of judged this position a bit too harshly. I felt that I'm losing, and very frankly, my mind doesn't work at 4 seconds, so sadly. So I basically played this, and I flagged in this position. Yes, the Red Forest time manager. Time manager was definitely a factor in this game, and I agree about that. So, what is my takeaway from this game? When you look at the computer report, you know, I'm going to say this, you know, if you look at the games we played, Anna's accuracy, especially with white, this is the only one off game in which her accuracy was not over 96%. In most of her games with white, her accuracy was up off the charts, like 98 point something. And it's very tough to play an opponent like this. And here is another thing, you know, playing Café de la Région style, which means, you know, channeling your own La Bourdonnais and go wild and not count pieces and pawns. That didn't work. I tried that in one of the games, you know, but this was, if you want, a missed opportunity. I should have won or drawn this game. The opportunities were there. You know, she did left a rook here on pre. I am actually very good at positions like these, in which cramped positions that get released and start into the attack. So anyway, so this was another, if you want, missed opportunity. But then we're gonna switch to this is game number 4. I'm gonna switch now to game number 5, and I'm very salty about this game. And you know, to the extent that I should be salty about losing an adoption match against Anna, I'm salty about this. And I'll show you the game. It's very brief. So this is e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5, and I'm very happy that Anna went into this because I have a line that I prepared against Chiu, and I play Chiu Zhao. That was my very first adoption match, and it begins with d4. And this is Max Lange attack, which is pretty tricky for black if black is not familiar with the lines. And guess what, guys? I learned something yesterday, is that you know, even grandmasters and 26 grandmasters can be caught in an opening traps, and I caught her. So after take d4, take d4, take d4, bishop g5, and if you know, and computer consider, and computer, I hate when it does this. Computer considers this better for white, but it's, as computer calculates, you will discover that, you know, it's not that clear. And I'm going to show you this, you know, the primary line, which is h6, bishop h4, and then the best line is actually to play d6, and then after f4, and you will see that as depth increases, bishop g4, and here is a line that basically was supposed to help me draw, because the best moves, and I've played all the best moves, are basically this: bishop f6, bishop d1, takes on d8, and rook takes on d8, and then you know, you take on d1. Hold on, and then you know, after knight c2, and then knight c3, and then rook a1, and when the dust settles, and bear with me while I execute this, rook a1, ef4, and then yes, black has a rook and 2 pawns for 2 pieces, but white has a slight advantage of this, and this actually is very straightforward way for you know, for white to equalize or to play for a draw, because if you look closer, after knight d5, this pawn is gonna fall, and these 2 pieces are pretty strong, and more importantly than that, the rooks don't have any open files to spread out and to be dangerous. So I was basically, you know, and this is the best line, as it is, it's the best line for black. And Anna didn't play this. What was played in the game is bishop g5, and then h6, which is a good move, but then, you know, under the g5, which was a follow-up, is basically a pretty big blunder, although it's a book move, because white has one counterpoint, and that counterpoint is f4. Why is f4 such a strong move? And I had this all in the prep, and if you look closer, I have 4 minutes and 25 seconds. In other words, I played this instantaneously. What are the obvious moves for black? Best move is actually what computer says, which is d5. But the obvious moves are all losing. takes, takes, and if you look closer, you know, we have, you know, both bishops are under threat, and black has a completely destroyed pawn structure and attack on the f-file, and this is a pickled king and a huge advantage in development. This is a very tough position to play, and it requires desperate measures on the black's part immediately. You know, basically black needs to play d5 here and find d5, which is pretty hard in a blitz game. So that's one option. Another option is to take on f4 with a pawn, which actually, believe it or not, and this is how I found this position, Chiu played against Can We Do It, I think back in May, and here is the not immediately obvious but brutal strike. It's this. It's rook f4, and then basically black is completely busted. What Anna played, and Anna actually, you know, played the best, one of the alternative moves, and it's queen e7, which is actually not a good, not the best move, but it's a fighter's chance, and then takes, and then bishop g5. The best move is that at any point play d5 and basically take advantage of the fact, you know, d5 would have been the best move. But if we look closer here, white is +4. And queen c5 is still the best move, but darn, you know, it's a one-trick pony. And I have here, you know, the best line is, you know, to take on f7 here and then play rook f2. That's +4.25. Honestly, that's very hard to find in a blitz game, but that was within realm of playing. Anna has one trick here, and one trick is to take on c4, and then the other trick is to give a double freaking check. And there's yeah, Dr. Lana, I'm salty about this one, and I'm mad at myself. And so the solution is very simple: play the freaking king h1. And you have all the advantages, you know, I mean, or take on f7 and then play king h1. Or, you know, or straightforward, take on f7, you know, these are human moves. Play rook f6, you know, and then, which is actually, you know, a mistake, but it's still a huge advantage, a winning advantage. King a8, and then, you know, and then play king h1. You're not going to lose in this position. The easiest move in this position was to actually leave the bishop where it was and just play king h1, and there are no advantages. It's +2.58, which, and I'm defeating adoption in game 5. I basically caught a 2600 grandmaster in my opening preparation. I'm winning the game based on the opening preparation. Instead, what happened was, you know, and this is something that I need to address. I choke, and it's not a chess observation. It's a psychological observation. I needed to do what I should have done in game 1, and basically sit down and calculate. You know. Blundering a mate playing knight f3 is something that I should be able to see without any problems. It's actually, you know, pretty tricky. But, you know, I shouldn't have allowed this to happen. I agree that rook f2 is probably too tricky a move to find in a blitz game, though it's not impossible. But king h1 is a perfectly natural human move that completely eliminates this, and after something like king h1, rook, she doesn't have anything to queen c4. You know, I'm taking knight f6. I have my king is basically safe, and I have a huge development advantage. This bishop is going nowhere. I have threats on f7. I can play, and after something like this, which is actually not a good move, I can play this and I'm completely winning. But this was a failure, and I need to find a way how to avoid this. This was a failure of nerve. I got a huge adrenaline rush, and my adrenaline rush in chess game manifests because, your hands start shaking and stuff like that. And I basically lost my ability to calculate. And the game ended embarrassingly, and Anna was a perfect lady, and she basically even apologized. So basically I blundered a mate in two, and that was not cool. I'm salty about this, and I'm not salty about chess. I'm salty about psychology, because I can't be doing this in a games of importance. I'm gonna have a winning position when I wanna in an over-the-board tournament when I'm playing for a title, and I cannot not win games like this. And yeah, and this one hurts, but I think it indicates what I need to work on, and I need to work on, not blundering these stuff like this. And the way to not blunder this is twofold. One is to work on my, emotional psychology, but more importantly, I think that, I should improve my tactical vision, so this knight f3 thing is part of my instant muscle brain memory for better yet. This motive is so familiar to me that I am immediately gonna see it, and I don't need to calculate it or even think about it. In other words, it's just gonna pop in my brain. Okay, she's gonna play knight f3, and so on and so forth. And honestly, I didn't see knight f3 because I was choking, but I saw knight e2, and even there I'm blundering a mate, because even if she played knight e2, king h1, and this is a mate too. So, the solution to this is obviously to solve psychology, but short of solving psychology, there is a chess solution. A chess solution is to improve my tactical vision. So I need to be able this to be part of instant muscle memory. So even if I'm choking, I'm still seeing the motive. Goran Zaric, I wish that was the case, and thank you for saying this, but bluntly, look at this. I have 4 minutes and 16 seconds. I spent a minute, almost minute and a half on this position, and I still blundered a freaking, not one by 2 mates into. It's not that, it's a failure of chess vision and a failure of nerve. I'll work on both, and I need to work on my tactics anyway, because my opening preparation is probably much better than my rating. And, I have my attacking ability is better than my rating. I think I'm significantly improving when it comes to my positional understanding. And I think games against strong positional players like Dina and Anna hugely helped there. But what I need to do, very bluntly, is to work on my tactics. And I'm probably gonna. I already reached out to Chess Tempo and asked them if they will allow me to practice Chess Tempo on stream. So now, we currently have these adoption matches at noon. On Sundays, my best losses on Mondays at 8 p.m. All times are, by the way, in New York, and I have my lessons with Anna on Tuesdays at 5 p.m. I need to have another stream in which is basically a stream series that will be dedicated entirely to tactics. because very frankly, I think improving my tactical vision is probably going to be easier than improving how not to choke type of thing. And yeah, I'm salty about this game. You know, how often in the universe do you find a hole in opening preparation of a Grandmaster? And one thing that, you know, Anna was basically saying on stream, if the stream is on YouTube, she's like, he played this instantaneously. And yes, I played this instantaneously. It was part of opening preparation. So anyway, so I have to admit that I was salty. I actually had a better position in game 6, and then and I also had a pretty good chances in game 7. I'm gonna spare you those details. What I would, hey Hardin, my goal is in chess is to is best summarized. I want to play in Title Tuesday, and I would like to get a title, and that title, that's a realistic goal, is to become a national master. I think I still have a pretty significant path to go, but we'll see that. Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I definitely, you know, she played d4 in one of the games, and she consistently went away from. I constantly forced her to change openings. She played Scandinavian exactly once because she didn't want to face b4 again. She didn't even want to go into some opening preps. The whole e4 and then g2 line with it, that, you know, my opening. Let me put it this way. I can only wish that my whole chess quality chess was as good as my openings and my opening preparation. But anyway, all right. So missed opportunity. It would have been nice to have won this game, but it didn't. And I want to focus now on this is a game 10, and you know. Obviously, this is Anna being Anaconda, but I am, you know, for game 10, you know, we contested this same line again and again, and I felt, and I still feel, that the Italian game, me as black, that this is my best game. And you see, the white has center here, but that it's very hard to do something with this center. And you know, I think, and I need to give a huge kudos to Grandmaster Daniel Naroditsky, Dania, who is a great coach and great friend and a fabulous chess player. That you know, I got the zen of this position, and the zen of this position is that you know, there's certain motives in this. It is that, you know, bishop on a7 is very strong. That struggle for center is basically continuous. That you know, there is a struggle who is going to reach put the knight on f5 and f4 fields. The fact that doubling the pawns on the e file can also be beneficial, and so on and so forth. And I'm actually very happy how I handled this game, and obviously didn't go my way, but I didn't let Anaconda be Anaconda, to use that term. So basically, knight h5, I'm going to f4, I'm put the knight on f4, which is a really good move. Incidentally, another topical move in this position is to play c6 to prevent knight d5, and I was actually planning on playing it. And here is basically, you know, I took on d5 and I really shouldn't. You know, if you look closer, much better move was to, and much more topical, was to play c6. And basically force white to exchange. I took a look at taking on d4, but very frankly I didn't like, and there is limitations as to how far one's zen goes in this position. This is kind of a computer line to take on d4 and then play b5 and so on and so forth. I think that my preparation for this match, I spent some time with Dania on stream and also by myself looking at these positions, and I think I started to understand the zen of these Italian positions, which I'm very happy about. So queen d7 is inaccuracy because I basically blundered a pawn here. But that wasn't the critical error. The critical error was basically I should have probably played c6 sooner, because I'm never gonna have a problem with the pawn of d6, and I didn't really need to take this. And queen d7 was just a continuation of a slightly imprecise play, and that cost me the pawn. And sadly, for all my praise of myself and saying, okay, I have a zen advantage of zen position, it took me only one imprecision here to end up in a lost position against Anna. So after queen f4, which is actually not the best move, I was kind of hoping that I could hold this position, but bluntly, I wasn't. At this point, I was probably already resigned to basically getting adopted, and it was. I didn't play this endgame that badly. My class with Dania worked. I should have played rook g4, but that I wasn't ready for that and kept the pawn on h5. And at this point, I'm basically losing the rook and so on. But the game was really lost in literally 2 or 3, I wouldn't say imprecise moves. This was a drawn position. This was a position which was really good. I should have played c6, as computer indicates. I shouldn't have allowed knight d5. Basically in the space of 2 moves here, and unfortunately that's all it took with Anna to do this. I nearly queen d7 was just basically, I don't want to say mental blunder, but I should have played queen e7. But it's very hard to not have any margin for error in these positions against somebody who is as strong as Anna, and that's the big takeaway. So what is, obviously, I was adopted. I lost 10 games in a row. However, frankly, I'm not unhappy about it. I think this is a very useful match for me because I played really well. I had plenty of chances. My opening preparation paid off, if not for one simple blunder. And what my conclusions about a match are basically a couple of don'ts. Don't number 1 is, don't play complex Sicilian position when somebody is sacrificing a rook or playing a very aggressive tactical stuff. Don't play those positions on field. And I'm referring to that rook c2 aggression from Anna in game 1. I would, if I spent this stop down and and sat down and calculated, I would have probably in all likelihood avoid adoption in game 1, which would have been a very critical success. So don't number 1 is don't play complex tactics and on feel, calculate. Do a structured analysis of the position. With candidate moves, with deep dive analysis, spend a freaking minute. So that's don't number one. Don't number two is don't play so slow that you don't have a minute to calculate the tactical position. There were quite a lot of positions in this match in which I lost on time because I ran out of time. That's another don't. The third don't is don't choke. And that's probably the toughest one to fix because it's not really chess-based. Chess solution to don't choke problem is to basically build my muscle memory of tactical positions. So even if I choke, I'm seeing the threats. And last don't is don't have tunnel vision. So when Anna leaves the rook on prise, you don't see it. That's bottom line, I played better than I thought I would. I had more chances in this match than I thought I would. To answer your question, Maxflow 11, I'm not saying I can't afford, unfortunately, to give it my all, for the very simple is that I still have a company to run and I have IRL, a pretty significant IRL and so on. But I'm outside outside of that, I am giving it all I have to give, how to put it. And I agree 100% with Dr. Lona. We can improve every day, no matter how old we are. I'm pretty sure my game is already improved. I think I'm still improving. Very frankly, my two matches against Dina Belenkaya kind of proved that, because in first match I was kind of lucky not to get adopted, and in second match, very frankly, she was lucky that the match after game number 8 was not 4-4. Which is a pretty significant result. And for the record, Dina is a friend of mine, and we troll each other all the time and so on. And she's a very strong player, and very frankly, she was the initial anaconda or initial python that forced me to figure out how to play these positions, and that really helped me with Anna a lot. So there is obviously at the age of 52, it's much harder to improve because the brain doesn't work the same way. But let's see how far this goes. Let me answer that question in 6 months, and we'll see what happens. I'm not going to say that I'm not going to try to prove everyone who said that people of age of 52 cannot get the title wrong, but let me see where it goes, and I may have a better answer for you in a couple of months. Anyway, so that's all I had for you tonight. Thank you for joining us very greatly. I'm playing WIM Tea Vidits. Oh, thank you, Barnol. That's very greatly appreciated. And incidentally, I have to say, I think I really appreciated when Papa bought this when I was playing a match against his daughters. He came out and expressed his support for what I was doing. That was very nice. Anyway, I'm playing Tea Vidits. I am salty about Game 5, so we'll see how that goes. I'm 11-2 in these adoption matches. I think I actually won 10 adoption matches in a row. So technically I don't know if that counts as adoption. I'm obviously just kidding. But thank you again for being here, and I'm looking forward to another match, and I'm working on a surprise opponent for the week after the next match, for the Sunday. That would be 27th, so it would be October 4th, but that will be announced. And I see that Nikki is streaming, so I'm actually gonna send you to Nikki. Is stuck in Blunder City, so please give Nikki a shout out. She's a great lady, she's a great friend, and she's one of those ladies that's you know, she's I think about 14 to 1500, so she is the type of a channel I frankly we need more, because I think chess is a great game for everybody who is you know, for people who love strengths. So anyway, send hello to Nikki for me, and I will see you tomorrow. My next stream is tomorrow at 5 with the one and only Anna Rudolph. Starting the raid now, and let's see. Okay, very good. Sending you there. Thank you. Hvala Gorane.